Queen Vera stood on the crystal balcony of her throne room, watching the stars shimmer beyond her homeworld's purple atmosphere. Her tall frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor as her crystalline skin shifted from deep blue to silver, reflecting her contemplative mood. For 300 years, she had ruled the Caltharian Empire with wisdom and strength. 12 star systems bowed to her authority, and countless worlds had surrendered rather than face her people's advanced technology. Today felt different. Her advisors had reported something unusual approaching the outer rim of her territory. Ships unlike any they had seen before moved through space in strange patterns, neither aggressive nor submissive. The beings inside these vessels called themselves humans. "Your Majesty," announced General Crix as he entered the throne room. His massive form, even larger than Vera's impressive height, gleamed with the natural armor plating that covered all Caltharian warriors. "The human delegation has arrived at the border station. They request an audience with you." Vera turned, her skin shifting to a curious golden hue. "What do our mind readers report about their intentions?" Crix's expression grew puzzled. "That is the strange part, my queen. Our psychics cannot penetrate their thoughts. Their minds appear completely shielded, though we detect no technology causing this effect." This news intrigued Vera greatly. In all her years of conquest, no species had ever naturally resisted Caltharian mental abilities. Every other race either possessed weak minds easily read or used crude technological barriers that her people could overcome with effort. These humans presented something entirely new. "Bring their leader to me," she commanded. "I wish to meet these mysterious beings myself." 3 days later, the human delegation arrived at the capital city. Vera watched from her throne as the great doors of her hall opened to admit the strangers. She expected to see beings similar to other species she had encountered, perhaps smaller or larger, but certainly recognizable in their alien features. Instead, a group of remarkably ordinary-looking creatures entered her presence. They walked on 2 legs like Caltharians, but stood barely 6 feet tall. Their skin held various shades of brown and tan instead of the shifting crystal surfaces of her people. Most surprising of all, they carried no visible weapons and wore simple clothes that suggested peaceful intentions. The human at the front of the group stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty Queen Vera, I am Ben Torres, representative of the Human Federation. We come seeking dialogue and friendship between our peoples." Vera studied this Ben Torres carefully. Unlike the trembling diplomats of other species who had stood before her throne, he showed no fear. His dark eyes met hers directly, and his voice remained steady. When she extended her psychic awareness toward his mind, she encountered something like a smooth wall that gently deflected her probing without hostility. "You are the first beings to resist our mental abilities," she observed, her skin flickering with interest. "How do you accomplish this?" Ben smiled, and Vera found herself surprised by the warmth in his expression. "We have learned that some thoughts are worth protecting, Your Majesty. Not from suspicion or hostility, but because privacy allows trust to grow naturally." This answer fascinated Vera. Other species either feared Caltharian mind reading or tried to block it through crude force. Ben suggested something more sophisticated, a deliberate choice rather than defensive fear. "You speak of trust," she said, rising from her throne to walk closer to the human delegation. "Yet your ships carry weapons, and your people surely have armies. Why should I believe your peaceful intentions?" "Because," Ben replied, "we could have approached your borders with overwhelming force, but chose instead to come with a small diplomatic vessel. We could demand territory or resources, but instead we ask for conversation. Our strength lies not in conquest, but in our choice to seek friendship first." General Crix shifted restlessly beside the throne. Vera could sense his disapproval through their mental link. He had advised her to simply claim human space and absorb their worlds into the Empire. The humans appeared weak compared to Caltharian warriors, and their technology seemed basic beside the Empire's advanced systems. But Vera found herself curious about these strange beings who chose diplomacy over surrender and showed neither fear nor aggression. Walk with me, she commanded Ben, gesturing toward the garden chambers beyond the throne room. As they strolled through the crystal gardens where living stone flowers grew in impossible spirals, Vera questioned Ben about human society. She expected to hear tales of conquest and dominion like those of every other spacefaring species. Instead, Ben described a federation of worlds where different human cultures maintain their independence while cooperating for mutual benefit. You allow your colony worlds to govern themselves? Vera asked, her skin shifting to a shade of orange that indicated confusion. Of course, Ben replied, pausing beside a fountain of liquid light. Each world knows its own needs best. Our federation provides protection and resources for trade, but we have learned that forced unity creates resentment while voluntary cooperation builds lasting strength. This concept challenged everything Vera had been taught about leadership. Caltharian doctrine emphasized control through superior power and technology. Order came from above, imposed by those strong enough to maintain it. The idea of governing through service rather than dominance seemed impossible. How do you maintain order without strict control? She pressed. Surely some worlds would rebel or seek their own advantage. Ben considered her question carefully. Sometimes they do. But we have found that people who choose to work together accomplish more than those forced into cooperation. When conflicts arise, we seek understanding rather than punishment. This approach takes longer but creates deeper loyalty. Over the following weeks, Ben remained at the Caltharian capital as negotiations continued. Vera found excuses to spend time with the human diplomat, discussing philosophy, governance, and the nature of strength. Their conversations challenged her assumptions about leadership and power in ways that both frustrated and excited her. Ben showed genuine interest in Caltharian culture, asking thoughtful questions about their technology and social structures. Unlike other diplomats who flattered her to gain advantage, he offered honest observations and even gentle disagreements when their viewpoints differed. Vera discovered that she valued his opinions more than the constant agreement of her own advisors. "You are an unusual queen," Ben commented one evening as they stood together on her private balcony. "Most rulers I have met seek to impress visitors with displays of power. You seem more interested in understanding different perspectives." Vera's skin shifted to a soft purple, a color that indicated deep thought. "Power without wisdom leads to destruction," she replied. "I have seen empires rise and fall because their leaders confused fear with respect. True strength comes from earning loyalty rather than demanding it. That wisdom would serve our peoples well if we could find ways to cooperate," Ben suggested quietly. As time passed, Vera realized that her feelings toward Ben had grown beyond diplomatic interest. She respected his intelligence, admired his peaceful approach to conflict, and found herself looking forward to their conversations more than any other part of her day. The thought surprised her, as Caltharian queens traditionally married other nobles for political advantage rather than personal compatibility. 1 month after Ben's arrival, urgent news reached the capital. Scouts reported massive ship movements in the outer systems as various hostile species gathered to test what they perceived as Caltharian weakness in negotiating with humans rather than simply conquering them. General Crix demanded immediate action to demonstrate the Empire's continued strength. "Your Majesty," Crix argued in the War Council, "these negotiations have been seen as weakness across the galaxy. We must act decisively or face challenges from every opportunistic species in the sector." Vera considered the situation carefully. A display of force would indeed discourage other potential threats, but it would also end the promising relationship developing with humanity. She found herself reluctant to abandon the insights Ben had shared about governance through cooperation rather than conquest. "There is another option," Ben offered when Vera privately discussed the situation with him. "A union between our peoples that would demonstrate strength while establishing the cooperation we have discussed." "What kind of union?" Vera asked, though her shifting color suggested she already suspected his meaning. "Marriage," Ben said simply. "A joining of our houses that would create formal alliance while allowing both our peoples to maintain their independence. Your empire gains a powerful ally, and potential enemies see that humanity and Caltharia stand together." The proposal shocked Vera, though not unpleasantly. Marriage between species was not unknown, though it usually occurred for purely political reasons. But Ben's suggestion offered something more, a partnership based on mutual respect and shared values rather than mere convenience. "Your people would accept an alien queen?" she asked. "They would accept someone I choose to love," Ben replied with quiet certainty. "And I believe your people would accept a consort who has shown respect for their culture and strength." Vera spent 3 days considering the proposal. Marriage would indeed solve the immediate political crisis while formalizing the alliance both peoples seemed to want. More personally, she had come to value Ben's companionship and wisdom more than she had expected. The thought of ruling alongside someone who challenged her thinking rather than simply agreeing with her decisions held great appeal. When she announced her decision to the Royal Council, the reaction varied dramatically. Some advisors praised the diplomatic brilliance of the alliance. Others worried about accepting a human male who appeared physically weak compared to Caltharian nobles. General Crix expressed particular concern about the military implications. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "humans appear to lack the natural strength and psychic abilities of our people. How can such a being serve as your consort in both ceremony and combat?" Vera's skin flashed with brief annoyance. "Strength takes many forms, General. I have learned much about leadership from Ben's perspectives. Perhaps our people could benefit from understanding human approaches to governance and diplomacy." The wedding ceremony took place 2 months later in the Great Crystal Cathedral of the capital city. Caltharian nobles attended alongside the human delegation that had grown to include Ben's family and senior Federation officials. The ceremony combined traditions from both cultures, with Ben wearing modified Caltharian formal robes while Vera incorporated human elements into her traditional crown. As they exchanged vows, Vera felt a deep sense of rightness about her decision. Ben had proven himself through intelligence, integrity, and genuine care for both their peoples. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she felt confident they could face them together. The celebration lasted for days, with representatives from across the empire attending to witness this historic union. Vera watched Ben interact with Caltharian nobles and officials, noting how he managed to show appropriate respect while maintaining his own dignity. He neither cowered before superior physical strength nor tried to compete where he was clearly outmatched. Instead, he contributed through thoughtful questions and suggestions that often revealed solutions others had missed. "You chose well, my queen," commented Elder Thane, the oldest member of the Royal Council. "This human brings wisdom that complements your strength. Together, you may achieve what neither could accomplish alone." As the festivities concluded and normal court life resumed, Vera found herself settling into married life with surprising ease. Ben proved to be an excellent partner in both personal and political matters. His different perspective often revealed solutions to problems that had seemed impossible, while his diplomatic skills helped smooth conflicts between different factions within the empire. Yet Vera sometimes noticed Ben studying reports from human space with unusual intensity, as if watching for something specific. When she asked about his concerns, he would smile and reassure her that all was well, but she sensed deeper currents beneath his calm surface. Still, she trusted his judgment and assumed he was simply maintaining awareness of his people's activities. The empire prospered under their joint leadership, and even former critics began to acknowledge the benefits of the human alliance. Trade increased, diplomatic solutions replaced several potential conflicts, and the cooperation between Caltharian and human scientists led to surprising technological advances. Vera had found not just a political ally, but a true partner who complemented her strengths while challenging her to grow. As she stood once again on her crystal balcony, watching the stars with Ben beside her, she felt a contentment she had never known as a single ruler. She could not have imagined that the greatest test of their union still lay ahead, hidden in the dark spaces between the stars. 3 years had passed since Queen Vera married Ben Torres, and the Caltharian Empire had flourished under their combined leadership. Trade agreements with human worlds brought new technologies and cultural exchanges that enriched both civilizations. The royal couple had become a symbol of successful cooperation between species, and even the most skeptical nobles now acknowledged the wisdom of the alliance. Vera stood in the Imperial Command Center, reviewing reports from across her 12-star systems. The morning briefings had become routine, usually covering trade disputes, resource allocations, and minor diplomatic issues. Ben often joined these sessions, offering insights that helped resolve problems more efficiently than traditional Caltharian methods. "Your Majesty," announced Commander Zell, the Chief Intelligence Officer. His normally calm demeanor showed unusual tension as he approached the command platform. "We have received disturbing reports from the Outer Rim territories." Vera looked up from her data tablets, noting the concern in Zell's voice. "What kind of disturbances, Commander?" "3 of our monitoring stations in the Vega sector have gone silent," Zell reported. "Our last communications indicated they detected unknown ships moving through dark space beyond our borders." Ben, who had been quietly reviewing human trade reports, suddenly focused his attention on the conversation. "Dark space?" he asked. "Could you clarify what that means?" General Crick stepped forward, his massive form casting shadows across the holographic display. "Dark space refers to the regions between star systems where no light reaches. Most species avoid these areas because navigation becomes extremely difficult without stellar reference points. The concerning part," Zell continued, "is that our sensor networks detected massive energy signatures moving through these supposedly empty regions. Whatever these ships are, they appear to be using the darkness for concealment." Vera felt her skin shift to a pale yellow, indicating worry. "Have you attempted to re-establish contact with the missing stations?" "Yes, Your Majesty. We sent scout ships to investigate, but they have also failed to report back. The entire Vega sector appears to be under some form of interference that blocks our communications." Ben stood up, moving to examine the tactical display more closely. "How large were these energy signatures compared to typical Caltharian vessels?" Zell manipulated the holographic controls, showing comparative data. "At least 10 times larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. The patterns suggest not individual ships but entire fleets moving in perfect coordination." The command center fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. No known species possessed fleets of such magnitude, and the coordination suggested either extremely advanced technology or some form of collective intelligence. "Your Majesty," General Crick said carefully, "I recommend we mobilize the Third Fleet to investigate these incidents. We cannot allow unknown forces to operate freely in our territory." Vera nodded slowly. "Agreed. But use caution, General. If these beings can eliminate our monitoring stations without warning, they may possess capabilities we do not understand." Over the following weeks, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The Third Fleet arrived at the Vega sector only to discover that 3 entire star systems had been stripped of all technology and infrastructure. Planets remained intact, but every artificial structure, from orbital stations to planetary cities, had vanished completely. Even more disturbing, the fleet sensors detected no debris or signs of battle. "It appears as though the technology was absorbed rather than destroyed," reported Fleet Admiral Kane via long-range communication. "We are detecting strange energy residue that our science teams cannot identify." Ben spent increasing amounts of time in his private office, communicating with human space through encrypted channels. Vera noticed his behavior growing more intense and focused, though he continued to participate in Imperial decisions. When she asked about his communications, he explained that he was keeping Earth informed about the developing situation. The attacks continued with terrifying efficiency. System after system fell silent as the unknown enemy moved deeper into Caltharian space. Survivors from the outer colonies brought horrifying reports of mechanical beings that appeared from nowhere and began systematically dismantling every piece of technology they encountered. "They call themselves the Devourers," reported Captain Mills, one of the few officers to escape an attack. "Their ships phase in and out of normal space without warning. Our weapons pass right through them when they choose to become intangible." Vera called an emergency session of the War Council to address the growing threat. Representatives from all military branches gathered in the secure chambers beneath the palace, their faces grim with concern. The enemy has claimed 7 star systems in 2 months, General Crix reported. Our conventional weapons prove ineffective against their phasing technology. They appear to exist partially outside normal spacetime. What about our psychic weapons? Asked Admiral North, commander of the Second Fleet. Have our mind warriors been able to penetrate their consciousness? Commander Zell shook his head grimly. The Devourers appear to be some form of collective machine intelligence. Our psychics report encountering a vast, cold consciousness that spans multiple dimensions. Attempts to establish mental contact have resulted in severe trauma for our telepaths. Ben listened to these reports with growing intensity. When the formal presentations concluded, he requested permission to address the council. Your Majesty, honored generals, he began, I believe it may be time to request assistance from the Human Federation. Our combined forces might discover strategies that neither civilization could develop alone. The reaction was immediate and negative. General Crix's armored plating rattled with agitation as he stood to respond. With respect to your position as consort, Crix said carefully, human military capabilities appear insufficient for this threat. We have observed your soldiers during joint training exercises. While brave, they lack the natural armor and psychic abilities necessary for combat against advanced enemies. Admiral North supported this assessment. Human ships carry impressive weapons, but they are built for conflicts against other humans. These Devourers exist partially outside normal physics. We need forces capable of multidimensional warfare. Ben's expression remained calm, though Vera noticed a subtle tension in his posture. I understand your concerns, he replied. However, humans have faced seemingly impossible odds before and found unexpected solutions. Perhaps we could at least consult with Earth's strategic advisors. Consultation would be acceptable, Vera decided, noting the disappointment in Ben's expression. But our primary focus must remain on Caltharian military responses to this threat. As the council session ended and the generals departed to coordinate defensive strategies, Vera approached Ben privately. His usual warmth had been replaced by something she had never seen before, a cold intensity that reminded her of looking into deep space. You seem troubled by the council's decision, she observed. Ben nodded slowly. I respect their expertise in conventional warfare. But these Devourers are not a conventional enemy. Sometimes the greatest solutions come from unexpected directions. That night, Vera found Ben in his office, engaged in urgent communication with Earth through multiple encrypted channels. The conversation appeared to involve complex technical discussions that went far beyond simple military consultation. When he noticed her presence, Ben quickly concluded his communications. The situation is becoming critical, he explained. I want to ensure that all possible resources are available if the Devourers continue their advance. Ben, Vera said carefully, your recent communications seem more extensive than simple updates. Is there something you have not shared with the council? For a moment, Ben's carefully maintained composure wavered. There are aspects of human capabilities that we rarely discuss with other species. Not from secrecy or mistrust, but because some knowledge can be dangerous if misunderstood. Before Vera could press for more details, urgent alarms echoed through the palace. Commander Zell's voice broadcast through the emergency communication system. Your Majesty, the Devourers have broken through our defensive lines in the Centauri system. They are moving toward the core worlds faster than our projections indicated. The next few days brought increasingly desperate reports. The Devourers had adapted to every weapon the Caltharians deployed against them. Particle beams passed harmlessly through their phased armor. Psychic attacks were absorbed and somehow used to strengthen their collective consciousness. Even quantum disruption weapons failed to affect their multidimensional existence. We have lost contact with the 4th and 5th fleets, General Crix reported during an emergency briefing. The enemy appears to be learning from each encounter, improving their defenses against our tactics. Ben stood at the tactical display, studying the Devourer advance patterns with intense concentration. They are not just adapting, he observed. They are evolving in real time, incorporating the principles behind your weapons into their own systems. How do you fight an enemy that becomes stronger with each attack? Admiral North asked desperately. By becoming something they cannot understand or adapt to, Ben replied quietly. Vera felt her skin shift through multiple colors as stress and confusion overwhelmed her usual control. The empire she had built through centuries of careful expansion was crumbling in a matter of months. Worse, she sensed that Ben knew something he was not sharing, some crucial information that might affect their strategy. The Devourers reached the Altair system, only 2 jumps away from the capital world. Refugee ships streamed toward the core systems, carrying survivors who described scenes of impossible horror. The enemy did not simply destroy, they consumed, breaking down matter itself to fuel their expansion. Your Majesty, Ben said during a private moment between crisis meetings, I need to ask a difficult question. If Earth offered military assistance that could turn the tide of this war, would you accept it regardless of how that assistance might challenge your assumptions about human capabilities? Vera studied her husband's face, noting the unusual intensity in his normally gentle expression. What kind of assistance are you describing? The kind that might reveal aspects of humanity that we have kept hidden since our first contact with galactic civilization, Ben answered carefully. Knowledge that could change how every species views human potential. Before Vera could respond, another alarm interrupted their conversation. This time, the emergency was even more urgent. Your Majesty, Commander Zell announced through the communication system, Devourer scout ships have been detected at the edge of our home system. They will reach our outer defensive perimeter within 6 hours. Vera felt her world narrow to this single moment of decision. The Empire faced extinction, her people would be consumed by an enemy beyond their understanding, and her husband offered help that came with mysterious conditions. Ben, she said finally, whatever capabilities Earth possesses, we need them now. I authorize full cooperation with any human military response. Ben's expression shifted, revealing something she had never seen before. For just a moment, he seemed to become larger somehow, as if his presence expanded beyond the physical space he occupied. Then it is time for you to learn who you really married, he replied, moving toward his communication equipment with sudden purpose. As Ben began transmitting coded messages to Earth, Vera realized that the next few hours would determine not only the fate of her empire, but her understanding of the universe itself. Whatever secrets Ben had been protecting, she was about to discover that her assumptions about human limitations were more wrong than she could have imagined. The Devourers continued their approach, unaware that they were about to encounter something entirely outside their capacity to understand or adapt to. In the darkness of space, human ships began moving toward the Caltharian system, carrying capabilities that would soon reshape the balance of galactic power forever. Vera stood at the command center, watching the tactical displays show the approaching enemy fleet, and wondered what her husband had been hiding behind his gentle smile and peaceful philosophy. Queen Vera stood frozen in the command center as Ben transmitted his final coded messages to Earth. Around them, Caltharian officers prepared for what many believed would be their final battle. The Devourer fleet had reached the outer system, their massive ships phasing in and out of normal space as they approached the capital world. Human response fleet entering the system, reported Commander Zell, his voice tight with stress. They are requesting permission to take tactical command of the defense. General Crix turned toward Vera with obvious concern. Your Majesty, perhaps we should maintain Caltharian leadership of our own defense. These humans, while brave, lack experience with enemies of this magnitude. Ben finished his communications and walked toward the tactical display. As he moved, Vera noticed something different about his presence. He seemed more focused, more intense, as if he had been holding back some essential part of himself for years. General, Ben said quietly, with respect, you have never seen what humans can accomplish when we stop limiting ourselves. Before Crix could respond, the tactical display updated to show the arriving human fleet. Vera expected to see the familiar designs of human warships she had observed during joint exercises. Instead, the display showed vessels that defied her understanding of physics. The human ships appeared to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their hulls shifted between solid matter and pure energy, while their movement pattern suggested they were traveling through space that folded and bent around them. Most disturbing of all, the ships seemed to be larger inside than outside, as if they contained impossible amounts of internal space. "What kind of technology is this?" Admiral North whispered, staring at the display in confusion. "Not technology," Ben replied, his voice carrying a strange resonance that had never been present before. "Evolution." As the human fleet moved toward the Devourer forces, Ben approached the central command console. "Your Majesty, I need to remove certain restrictions I have maintained since arriving in your space. What you are about to see may challenge your understanding of what humans truly are." Vera nodded, though apprehension filled her thoughts. "Do whatever is necessary to save our people." Ben reached up and touched a small device behind his ear that Vera had always assumed was a communication implant. When he removed it, the change was immediate and dramatic. His presence expanded beyond his physical body, filling the command center with an awareness that touched every mind in the room. Vera felt her psychic abilities, which had always been completely blocked by Ben's mental shields, suddenly encounter something vast and complex beyond her comprehension. "Ben," she gasped, "what are you?" "I am what humans become when we stop pretending to be limited by three-dimensional existence," he replied, though his voice now seemed to come from multiple directions at once. The tactical display showed the first engagement between human and Devourer forces. Instead of the conventional weapon exchanges Vera expected, she witnessed something that challenged every law of physics she understood. Human ships phased through Devourer attacks while simultaneously existing in the same space as enemy vessels. Human soldiers appeared inside Devourer ships without any visible method of transport. Most impossible of all, humans seemed to be operating in multiple quantum states simultaneously, making them impossible for the Devourers to target or adapt to. The Devourers adapt by analyzing and incorporating the principles behind enemy weapons, Ben explained, his consciousness now clearly extending far beyond the command center. But they cannot adapt to an enemy that exists in quantum superposition, simultaneously using every possible attack strategy while using none of them. General Crick stared at the display in complete bewilderment. "This is impossible. Matter cannot exist in multiple quantum states while maintaining consciousness and control." "Calfarian matter cannot," Ben agreed. "But human consciousness learned to transcend physical limitations centuries ago. We exist in quantum possibility clouds while maintaining focused awareness through trained will." Vera watched as human forces systematically dismantled the Devourer fleet through methods that defied rational explanation. Human soldiers walked through solid walls, operated from inside enemy command centers while simultaneously fighting on the external battlefield, and seemed to anticipate every Devourer tactic before it was implemented. "How long have humans possessed these abilities?" she asked, her skin shifting through colors that indicated profound shock. "Since shortly after we achieved faster-than-light travel," Ben replied, his expanded awareness coordinating human forces across multiple dimensional states while maintaining conversation. "We discovered that consciousness itself could be trained to exist in quantum superposition. But we learned to hide this ability after early contact with other species resulted in fear and attempted suppression. The Devourer fleet, which had consumed 7 star systems through superior adaptation abilities, found itself facing an enemy it could not understand. Every attempt to analyze human tactics resulted in contradictory data, as humans existed in all possible tactical states simultaneously until the moment they chose to collapse their quantum possibilities into specific actions. The galaxy was not ready to know that humans had transcended the normal limitations of consciousness and matter," Ben continued, his voice carrying harmonics that suggested he was speaking from multiple quantum states. "Fear would have led to alliance formations designed to contain or destroy us. We chose to appear limited while secretly developing our abilities further." Commander Zell, monitoring communications from the battle zone, turned toward Vera with an expression of amazement. "Your Majesty, the Devourer fleet is retreating. They appear to be unable to process the tactical data they are receiving from the human engagement." On the display, the massive Devourer ships that had seemed invincible began withdrawing toward the system edge. Their adaptive systems, designed to incorporate and counter any technology or strategy, had encountered an enemy that existed in states their collective consciousness could not comprehend or replicate. "Retreat confirmed," reported Admiral North, his voice filled with awe. "The Devourers are jumping to dark space. Initial scans suggest they are withdrawing from all occupied systems." Ben gradually contracted his expanded consciousness back toward his physical form, though Vera could sense that he remained connected to something much larger than his individual awareness. The strange resonance in his voice faded, but his eyes held depths that had not been present before. "The threat has passed," he said simply. "The Devourers cannot adapt to an enemy that exists outside the normal rules of space and time. They will seek easier targets elsewhere." Vera found herself staring at her husband with emotions she had never experienced. Wonder, awe, and a strange form of fear mixed together as she tried to understand what she had witnessed. "All these years," she whispered, "you have been hiding your true nature from me." Ben's expression softened, returning somewhat to the gentle diplomat she had fallen in love with. "Not hiding," he corrected. "Protecting." The knowledge of what humans have become could destabilize galactic civilization. Most species are not ready to learn that the boundaries they accept as absolute can be transcended through focused consciousness. General Crix approached cautiously, his usual confidence replaced by uncertain respect. "Lord Ben, if humans possess such incredible abilities, why do you continue to participate in conventional diplomacy and trade? Why not simply claim dominion over the galaxy?" "Because power without wisdom leads to destruction," Ben replied, echoing words Vera had spoken to him years earlier. "We learned that transcending physical limitations means nothing if we cannot also transcend the primitive drives toward conquest and dominion. True strength comes from choosing how to use your abilities, not from using them simply because you can." Over the following days, as Caltharian forces reoccupied the liberated systems, Vera struggled to process what she had learned. Ben had returned to his normal behavior, participating in government meetings and diplomatic discussions as before. But now she could sense the vast potential he kept carefully controlled beneath his peaceful exterior. "The device you removed," she asked during a private moment, "what was its purpose?" "A quantum consciousness limiter," Ben explained. "It kept my awareness confined to normal three-dimensional space and prevented me from accessing the expanded abilities that all humans learn to control. I have worn it since arriving here to avoid accidentally revealing our true nature. And now I will need to be more careful about maintaining normal behavior without artificial assistance," he replied with a slight smile. "Though I suspect hiding our abilities may become more difficult as other species learn what happened here." Vera realized he was right. Word of the battle would spread throughout the galaxy. Other civilizations would demand to know how humanity had defeated an enemy that had seemed invincible. The careful balance Ben's people had maintained for centuries might be ending. "What will happen when other species learn the truth about human capabilities?" she asked. "That depends on how the information is presented," Ben replied thoughtfully. "Fear could lead to war, but understanding might lead to cooperation. Perhaps it is time for humanity to stop hiding and start teaching others that the limitations most species accept as permanent can be overcome through proper development of consciousness." As they stood together on the crystal balcony where they had shared so many quiet conversations, Vera found herself seeing both Ben and the universe with completely new understanding. The gentle philosopher she had married was also something beyond her previous conception of possible existence. "I feel like I am meeting you for the first time," she admitted. "In many ways, you are," Ben agreed. "But the core of who I am has not changed. I still believe in cooperation over conquest, wisdom over power, and love over fear. These values guided my choices even when I possessed abilities that could have let me take anything I wanted by force." Vera's skin shifted to a warm golden color that indicated deep affection mixed with profound respect. "Then I am even more honored to be your partner than I realized. You chose to limit yourself out of love for both our peoples. And I would make that choice again," Ben replied, taking her hand in his. "Though I suspect our future will require finding new ways to balance power with responsibility." As they watched the stars together, Vera contemplated the implications of what had been revealed. Her empire had been saved by capabilities she could barely comprehend, wielded by the husband she thought she knew completely. The galaxy itself would need to adjust to the knowledge that humanity had transcended the normal boundaries of existence while choosing to remain peaceful neighbors rather than cosmic rulers. The greatest strength, she realized, lay not in Ben's quantum abilities or the impossible technologies his people commanded. It lay in their choice to use such power in service of cooperation rather than domination. This wisdom, more than any superhuman capability, was what made humans truly extraordinary. In the distance, human ships began their journey back toward Earth, their impossible nature once again hidden beneath conventional appearances. But Vera knew that nothing would ever be quite the same. She had witnessed what beings could become when they refused to accept limitations as permanent, and more importantly, she had learned what true strength meant when guided by wisdom and love. The Devourers would find no easy prey in this galaxy, and the future would be shaped by the recognition that growth and transcendence were possible for any species willing to evolve beyond their assumed boundaries.